What would you do if you discovered that the sun, this immense star that lights up our lives, is not as stable as it seems? Well, the heart of the sun, its core, hides mysteries that would keep any scientist awake at night. Behind its immutable appearance, there is a dangerous interplay of forces that, if they fail, could trigger an unprecedented catastrophe. Does it seem exaggerated? Imagine if the sun began to expand, swallowing the planets around it, or simply lost control, plunging the solar system into chaos. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the sun stopped shining? How would this affect your life, your home, or even the fate of humanity? While everything seems stable, science warns us of scenarios that sound like science fiction, but are closer to reality than we would like to believe. And the most surprising thing, these changes may be happening right before our eyes, so slowly that we almost don't notice. Get ready to discover the heart of the sun and understand how it could determine not only the future of our planet, but also the survival of life as we know it. Curious? Then stay with me, because what comes next could change the way you see the universe, and the sun that shines out there. Imagine the sun's core as a never-ending battle between opposing forces, where balance is the key to avoiding cosmic catastrophe. On one side, we have gravity, always pulling everything inward, trying to make the sun collapse under its own weight. On the other, there's the pressure generated by nuclear fusion in the core, pushing outward, keeping the sun stable and shining. It's like a cosmic tug-of-war that, fascinatingly, keeps our star alive. Without this balance, the sun could turn into something we can't even imagine. This hydrostatic balance is more than just advanced physics, it's a universal dance that protects us every day. If it were to fail, the sun's core would collapse, unleashing unpredictable and violent events. Think of it like a dam holding back a mighty river. As long as everything is in balance, the water is calm and helpful. But if a crack appears, chaos can be devastating. And what about the core? It maintains this balance at temperatures and pressures that defy our comprehension. The intriguing question is, how long can this balance last? After all, nothing lasts forever, not even the sun. The pressure generated by fusion, while incredibly powerful, depends on limited fuel, and the supply of hydrogen is not infinite. One day, the opposing forces will fail, and the core will undergo dramatic changes. But what really happens when this balance is broken? When we think of the sun's core, it's easy to imagine an eternal furnace, but even this energy source has its moments of instability. One of the most alarming possibilities would be the depletion of hydrogen fuel, which would halt nuclear fusion and destabilize the core. Without this fusion, gravity would take over, compressing the core in search of equilibrium. This process would trigger chaotic reactions, forcing the sun to transform into something new, perhaps a red giant, and expand in a threatening way. Another fascinating scenario is the disturbance caused by external processes, such as a particle collision or even rare cosmic events, such as an extreme gravitational interaction. Although unlikely, these occurrences could alter the dynamics of the core, leading to localized explosions or changes in the rate of fusion. It would be like pouring gasoline on an already lit fire. The results would be explosive and unpredictable, with effects that could be felt thousands of kilometers away. And so the big question arises, how would these changes impact the sun's equilibrium? Science suggests that these instabilities could mark the beginning of the end, forcing the core to reconfigure its own structure. When that day comes, what will we actually see? Is it the beginning of a new phase or the prelude to destruction? The sun, as powerful as it may seem, is doomed to an inevitable fate. In about 5 billion years, when the core has consumed almost all of its hydrogen, it will begin to burn helium, triggering a new phase in its life. This process will transform the sun into a red giant, swelling its outer layers to such an extent that it could swallow planets like Mercury and Venus. The Earth? Well, it may not escape the scorching heat. It is like a candle that, at the end of its useful life, burns brighter before extinguishing itself. But the end of the sun will not be an immediate spectacle, it will unfold in stages. After the red giant phase, the core, now composed mainly of carbon and oxygen, will collapse into a white dwarf. Imagine a dense core, the size of the Earth but with the mass of a star. This stellar corpse will glow dimly for billions of years before finally extinguishing itself. Meanwhile, the sun's outer layers will be dispersed into space, forming a planetary nebula, a cosmic epitaph for the star that once supported life. And what does this mean for the solar system? Without the sun's light and warmth, Earth and the other planets will become cold, dark worlds. It's a grim but fascinating reminder that everything in the universe, even something as grand as the sun, has a life cycle. But before then, could we feel the first signs of this transition? When we think about the collapse or transformation of the sun, the impact on humanity is simply unimaginable. Without its light and heat, our planet would become a frozen landscape, where no life as we know it could survive. The oceans would solidify, and the atmosphere would freeze, leaving the Earth as an icy desert. It is as if the sun were the heart of our system, and without it, everything around it would slowly die. But what is most curious, will we know when this will happen? Or will we be caught off guard by subtle but fatal changes? Even before total collapse, the expansion of the sun into a red giant will pose a colossal challenge. The extreme heat could evaporate our oceans and destroy the protective ozone layer, making Earth uninhabitable. In more optimistic scenarios, humanity could seek refuge on other planets or star systems, but this would depend on unimaginable technological advances. Perhaps the colonization of Mars or moons like Europa is the key to our survival. The question is, will we be ready when the moment comes? But there is a more philosophical side to all this. The end of the sun forces us to reflect on our dependence on a single star. Will our species be able to transcend this limitation and become truly interstellar? Or will we be doomed to disappear along with our sun? Perhaps, in this cosmic game of survival, the real question is not what will happen to the sun, but how we will face this inevitable fate. Now that you know more about the sun's core and the impact its transformation may have on the future, there's no way to ignore the magnitude of this topic, right? But here's the big provocation. Have you ever stopped to think about how much we depend on something we can't control? How can we prepare for a fate that seems inevitable? Perhaps the biggest lesson here is the urgency of advancing as a species, not only in knowledge, but in action. So, what would you do if you knew that the end of the sun was marked on the cosmic calendar? Will humanity be able to unite and seek solutions? Or will we just be spectators of our own history fading away along with the sun's light? I want to hear your opinion. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, maybe you have an insight that could surprise us. Oh, and before moving on to the next video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any fascinating curiosities about the universe and continue exploring the mysteries it has to reveal. Until next time.